In today's episode, we are talking to Thembalezwe Mntambo of Nyoc Organics. We explore his love for urban beekeeping and farming. We get to hear how not having vast land for farming did not stop him. Please stay tuned while we learn from conversation. I'm Mntambo. Welcome to SlowUp Shandis. So Themba, as a child, growing up, did you ever think this is the path you'll be taking in life?
Not really. I had many paths,
Okay.
Like, a child, you got so much imagination, so many things you want to do in life. I would say I was definitely sure I wasn't going to be a normal, I wasn't going to live life in a normal way. I knew that for sure.
Is it?
Yeah, I knew. I thought I want to be a lawyer, no, a doctor, no. But the problem was I didn't know.
Okay.
You see, so that also brought in its own challenges because I had to discover in a long way, making mistakes,
Yes.
being naughty, being maybe a bit directionless in life, But it's interesting because my father's family, both my mother and father, so my father's family, my grandfather, who I never met, he passed away. My father I think he was 18 or so I never met him. But he had a plot he still has a plot in a place called Madinyani.
Okay.
It's north of Pretoria. It's kind of like the old Bophuthatswana side of things, Brits side. So he has a plot there, I think it's about 8 hectares. And at the time, it was one of the areas where the old government were selling big portions of land for black people, like settlements. So my grandfather took the opportunity, bought, and in that homestead, I remember we used to go on holidays. We used to go there. All of us, the cousins, the siblings, and everything. And at the time, of course, my grandmother who was staying there, and then the cousins and everything. So there was fields, They used to corn, mealies, watermelons, peanuts, anything that's dry that needs to dry because it's very dry there.
Okay.
So I think maybe that stuck in my mind subconsciously. I knew maybe I was gonna somehow be involved in nature or farming or something in that field,
Interesting.
I remember we used to be waking up in the morning like 4 a.m. because that time there was no water, like tap water.
Yes.
So there was a communal water station. We used to, the grandkids, we used to get up in the morning. There was a donkey that rode past our homestead, got on the donkey, took our buckets and go and get water, and then come back so we can make fire for breakfast and everything for the day.
So that was transport, the donkey?
Yeah. So it was like rural stuff, eh? Like,
Wow.
I mean, even some of my cousins now today who live there, like stayed because I was just going for holidays.
Yeah.
They're like, their teeth are brown, because of
Because
the water's salty.
Oh.
It's like, yeah. So that's my father's side. My mother's grandfather was Induna of so there was a white farm owner, and then my grandfather was the Induna of the farm. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So like my mother always tells me stories of them going to the fields and picking vegetables and fruits and helping out, and just being kids. And then even my great grandmother, she also in her homestead she used to grow so much food,
So this whole thing is in your blood.
Yeah, but it was very subconscious because both my parents were not people who were into nature or farming or any of that sort. So my mother's more, she lives in Swaziland. My mother stays in Swaziland.
Okay.
So she's got her own patch and she's always been good with her green fingers, But still, it was never anything I would say I had a vision or,
Or your parents took you by hand and
took
teach
exactly
you to,
and
this
said, no,
is how we do things.
there's life in this thing, you can actually do something, So, yeah.
So you mentioned that you used to visit the rural area. So where did you grow up?
So I grew up in a church environment. Yeah, my father he's retired now, but he was part of the church, so we used to always move around. Every 4 years, 5 years, we're moving.
Oh, okay.
So I never really grew up in one space, So I was born in Pretoria. We moved to the Free State, a place called Bramford.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a township out in the Free State. Then moved to Joburg. Moved around a bit in Joburg, then moved to Cape Town.
You've been around.
Yeah, then Cape Town was the last of my schooling phase.
Okay.
So after Cape Town, I was free to
Does
go
this mean
wherever,
you can speak Xhosa?
Yeah, I can try and understand it close. I think
I think.
yeah, siyaphuma kodwa sona ke, but yeah.
Okusalayo.
Yeah. So yeah, I stayed in Cape Town for was it? Yeah, close to 10 years. Yeah.
You know what I'm picking up? You moved around a lot, but in your moving around, you didn't stay in the rural areas. So where are you getting this beekeeping thing going? How did you get into beekeeping?
Before beekeeping, it's actually just farming, Just I slowly started to see the picture, like I think in my early 20s that the farming thing must happen.
Okay.
Yeah, it must happen. It was so to a point where I even was registered to go to the University of Free State to study proper BSc Agric. They approved me to go, and for some reason, certain things happened in life I couldn't go.
Okay.
But from like early adulthood, I was like, no, I must find a way. So eventually, I worked in media, done content, I've done ad sales, I've done almost everything, writing, sub-editing, almost all types of media, digital, print, even this video content stuff.
Yes.
So then I decided no, I can't anymore. I need to follow my purpose. It took me a while. So I was already now into my 30s, early 30s, and only now I managed to find that gap to say, okay, here's the gap, let me take it, So I went to a learnership program. It was full commercial farming, working every day, understanding how this thing works. But when I finished with that, I was still in a position where I didn't really have land, to work. I was like basically had certain skills, but I didn't know where to implement them, And of course,
platform.
I had the opportunity to also maybe work on a farm after the learnership and stuff like that, but it didn't really sit well with me because I'm coming from a working environment. So now why must I go back and work again,
for someone else?
In this thing which I found my thing.
You can do it yourself.
Here's my gap. I need to find a way. So in finding a way, bees were also part of the agricultural system, for pollinating of plants and food, So if you go up towards, say, Mpumalanga, Limpopo, they're growing macadamias, they're growing avocados, lychees, citrus. So all those crops I've mentioned, they require pollination to make the yield better for the farmer. So what they do is they actually hire beekeepers to bring in their hives for a certain time during the flowering period of the plant. And then that way, once the flowering period is done, those beekeepers move their hives, So then I started to get more interested in that, to say, okay, I don't need to be located. I don't need to own land. I don't need to be in a specific area at the same at one time.
But how did you figure that out, though?
By observing. Observation and being curious, and University of YouTube.
Nice.
And that was that was just the space,
Bubbles. What's his name?
Oh, Babel's fine. Babel's not doing anything.
Bagels has got teeth. Don't tell me he
No,
doesn't
Bagels
bite.
is a farm dog.
He's got teeth.
He's a farm dog, this one. It's fine.
So you mentioned that at some point you had to figure out or align yourself with your purpose. Can you tell us a bit about that? Like, what exactly were the things that you were going through to actually make you, I don't know, like stop and actually realize you are going against what it is that brought you here?
Yeah, you know, sometimes you have to hit rock bottom sometimes. Yeah, you have to just hit the floor and be like, okay, yeah, what is left? After everything you've built in your life, everything that you've wanted to do, and now you at this point where you've got nothing other
What
than
now?
your passion, you know, your purpose.
Yes.
So that was it. I mean, I've been through things in life, losing income, losing Babels, sook, Babels.
Oh, you look so sad. You should see the eyes. How did you get started?
Nyoc Organic started first and foremost by being able to produce a product. So in other words, I needed to have something for a brand to start.
Yes.
So I started with making sure I've got a quality product, which is the honey. And of course, with that, because we've got lip balms, we've got body butters, we've got scrubs, now we've got in soaps. So that whole product, getting the product correct and understanding the process and the technical aspects first was more important, because the branding for me was quite easy to do, because I previously ran a leather business, which so aesthetically I knew how to make a brand happen. So that was kind of more easy. The harder part for me, and still is, and still a learning process, is the technical aspect of farming, and of course producing a finished product, which is, requires some agro processing. So Nyoc Organics sort of started like that, and
Okay. And you mentioned that you have, besides honey, you have other products. Are the products also made from the beeswax or the honey that you produce?
Yeah, so everything is about closing the loop, So understanding,
I like that.
Understanding how, yes, bees produce honey, but they also produce other products,
Yes.
which are beneficial for our bodies, our skin, inside and outside, that we can use as a healthy, completely organic alternative to what is on the shelves.
That's cool. Okay, can you explain how do honey get the different flavors?
Oh, okay. So it's really quite simple, because honey forage or feed off flowers for their nectar and their pollen. So honey is a derivative of nectar, which the bees then they collect, they bring to the hive, and they mature that nectar. They fan it through heat and also through their own enzymes which stay in their bodies to produce this honey. So with them foraging of different flowers, we also can see that flowers are different in color, they're different in shape, they're different in size, and so forth. So even the nectar is even different.
Really interesting fun fact.
So naturally then you will get you should, depending on the area where the bees have foraged, which is about a 5-kilometer radius from where their home is, you should get a flavor and aroma and a color of that specific area. So for example, if you have a big farm where you're doing a monocrop like avocados, the flower of the avocado will come through. The nectar of the avocado flower will come through in the honey, and even the color of it. So that's how that's how honey is different and should be different. Honey should never taste the same. From the honey in the northwest should not taste the same as the honey in.
I don't know. I grew up with honey that tasted the same.
Mpumalanga or honey KZN. It should be very different, by nature.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how important, or what's the effect of bees in our environment?
Well, it's said that if there are no bees, if bees die, basically.
Does that mean no food?
We will have no food. Basically, we will be extinct because 80% of the food we consume has a direct or indirect in relation to bees.
Yes.
If the bees do not pollinate those foods, 80% of our diet is gone. So it's very, very important to have bees in the ecological food chain, because you must understand it's not also directly about the food we consume, but it's also the food that other insects or animals consume.
Okay.
So if, for example, you look at something like a thorn tree, which you may think, whatever, thorn tree, and the bees like the flower of the thorn tree.
Okay.
But then you also get animals that enjoy the thorn tree bark, and when those animals consume that thorn tree bark or the flowers or the leaves, they also release manure, and that manure is what helps the soil to rejuvenate and to be healthy. So without the flowers being blossomed, there's no trees for the animals to feed off.
Yes.
And therefore then again our soil gets depleted.
The full circle.
And then we can't grow on the soil which is bare. So it's the direct. Bees are vitally important for our direct consumption of food as humans.
Yes.
But more importantly, ecologically, whether we're talking animals, humans, insects, pollination is very, very key. Of course, there is wind pollination, there is hand pollination, there is cross pollination, so plants are able to pollinate themselves.
Yes.
But where bees come in is they're very prolific in how they pollinate from plant to plant. Okay. And that's why they're vitally important. It's their function. Yeah.
I'm scared to ask what is hand pollination, but yeah.
No, it's simply like, if you don't, when farmers need to use their hands to take one female plant and a male plant, female plant, male plant, and they actually...
that's it.
That's it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And with you working with bees, I'm sure you've been stung a couple of times.
Yeah, no, it's part of the job. Yeah. It's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad.
Yeah.
What one should?
Stings are also in Chinese traditional medicine. The bee sting is used in a form of acupuncture. So it helps to release certain tensions. It helps to relieve arthritis in joints as well. So the bee venom is actually quite medicinal for you.
But in acupuncture, they have a specific place they go to.
Yeah.
So the bees, they sting you anyway, so does it still work the same?
They do sting you, yeah. I mean, in a natural sense, but if you simulate a stinging of a bee, so look, it is what it is. There's a practice where you can take a bee, capture it, and actually induce a sting on the position you want it to.
Okay.
It is a form of medicine.
It sounds like too much though.
But even if you get stung, usually bees they're very specific, so you do get stung a lot on my joints.
Okay.
Usually my hands, where you exposed me, sometimes.
So what should you do if you get
you can cover up. You see, where I get stung mainly is not where I'm. It's actually when I finish working. When you undress and you take off your suit.
And there's that one.
Then you get. It's okay.
So they hold grudges.
I wouldn't say hold grudges. They are simply just protecting what is theirs. Their source of food. Which we are. Which in my view is we are exchanging. We are sharing.
Yes.
Because if you are completely going to extract and remove everything, you got no food for the bees also to continue and thrive. So you have to also develop a certain technique of extracting enough and also leaving enough for them to continue. Because if you're doing beekeeping as a business, your primary function is to make sure bees are healthy and strong. If you've got weak bees, you don't get honey. So it's very important to practice beekeeping in a sustainable manner in order for you to get that honey. But with that said, you are also going to be confronted with bees who are protecting their food source. So it's a relationship, and sometimes some hives are not so aggressive as others.
Yeah.
Some are more aggressive. So it's just about having a general understanding that this is just the name of the game. Once you will get stung sometimes.
Okay. So in your farming journey, what kind of do you get any assistance from the government?
No. I have knocked on a few doors. Beekeeping is quite misunderstood. Okay, specifically about beekeeping. Farming is another, in terms of funding, another component. But it's a misunderstood space because remember, beekeeping as an industry is been very much a white-owned industry. It's not something that black people have all of a sudden jumped into as a business.
Yes.
We as black people, we understand bees from a traditional point of view, from an ancient point of view, our relationship with our environment.
Yes.
And bees being part of that environment, we understand that fully. It's not this thing of we don't know bees. We know bees. Even Neitagazela, some people's praise names are also linked to bees.
Oh,
Which
okay.
tells you it's an ancient. We have ancient knowledge of bees. But if we're talking now, a Western and structured way of beekeeping, it's very much a new thing for black people, simply because there's a relationship between keeping bees and land. You can never, even if you're doing bees on a small scale, you still need a piece or portion of land to keep bees.
Yes.
So the relationship between a farmer and a beekeeper is always going to be in unison. So the farmers, we know farming traditionally in a big scale has been white dominated.
Yes.
Through our history.
Yes.
And the same goes with beekeeping. So it is. So when you're having conversation with people from government or departments and so forth, it's not something that's easy to understand. Like if you say, no, I want to grow cabbage or spinach, and I need a tractor, and I need fertilizer, and I need seeds. It's a very easy conversation.
Yes.
And the next thing they'll ask you is, oh, do you have a cooperative? Because now there's this new thing of, if you want to get funding, you need to form a co-op.
Oh, okay.
You need to have like a core view, and then they'll fund a core. They'll never fund an individual. So to cut a long story short, I have knocked on doors, but I haven't knocked too much because it gives me a headache to go and ask for money. I'm finding it very liberating to be able to find ways to be self-sustainable.
Yes.
Find ways to understand my process, build my skill sets. So in other words, even to a point where you're building one's own beehives, finding materials, so that you don't be captured by this idea that you need to have funding to start something, to grow something. Of course, there's a point where you need to, depending on how big you want to be, you do require that capital injection. But I think there are smarter ways to do it, and it's something that I will be exploring as I expand, maybe. But no government support whatsoever for me. I don't even feel that bad, because here's another thing is, look, there's a line of people needing funding. We are so many black people trying to get into farming, and we all need funding. So imagine the line, the queue of people waiting to get in the line. You're going to wait forever. So while you wait, or while you just do what you have, use what you have, and make it work.
So rather just start where you are.
It's not always the best option.
Is there any association for young black farmers that's around currently?
Yeah, look, there's a number of groups.
Okay.
Whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on WhatsApps, there are even associations that farmers associations. So I can't speak for what they are doing, other than what I see is like just sharing information, advice, selling each other stuff, cross-selling, which is nice.
Okay.
But on the ground, we all very much, I think, in our own sort of spaces, own silos, and I don't say that in a bad way, because we're also learning, we're also processing and understanding how this thing works.
Yes.
Before we start to say, guys, let's just come together. It sounds nice to say let's come together and we just do things together, but we're all at different stages,
Yes.
And we're all trying to mature and to build ourselves up. And I think those opportunities will come. It takes a long time, to think about it. If you decide today to grow a mango tree, it's gonna take you 5 to 7 years for you to see any fruit on the tree. You see, so while in that time, that tree needs to be nurtured and taken care of. And the thing about it is, you can only say you've got a product once the tree is fruiting. Then you can say, guys, let's come together, let's do it, because I've got my stuff here now.
You can't just be talking about it.
So it will get there, but there are spaces where to find support and to communicate. So it's really nice to have those platforms, and hopefully that can be converted into actually implemented tangible things. We can share resources, we can maybe create central market spaces, and so forth. But with time.
So how long have you been in this space?
I've been in the space since 2016.
2016.
Yeah, 2016, and then full time, I would say 2017. Yeah, where I was
okay, I know we touched on it a bit, but can you just tell me, as a young farmer, how important is land ownership to you?
If you want to farm, it used to be, I thought it was the key to have land, to own land, but it's not the key, actually. It's not the key, because the key is to build the skills and to use whatever patch or whatever little thing that you find which has soil which you can grow. You see, because we need to be careful about this land concept from a farming point of view. Because the more land you have, the more inputs that land requires in order for it to function. So starting with what you have allows you to not have it allows you not to have the risk or the pressures of trying to make it work, because you use what you have, and then you slowly expand, because as you expand, then you've seen how this thing can grow, and once you've prototyped it, then you can expand and get bigger and bigger and bigger as far as you think you want to go. But the more you have, the more implements, the more inputs, the more labor, the more expenses come into play. So to kind of summarize your point, land is important not only for the function of agriculture, it's also important for the function of your roots and rooting yourself in a space or place, especially for us as Africans. We are people who root ourselves. Yes. We don't just float. Yes. So that aspect of land ownership, I think, is more important, as in the rooting of yourself, the grounding of yourself. It's more important than having land to farm. You don't need your own land to farm, no.
So since you move around a lot and your beekeeping is in other people's backyards, You seem to be moving around in very interesting spaces, like this one that we're at right now. Can you tell me a little bit more about this place?
Okay, so this space is called the Reimagined Learning Center. It's a space occupied and run by very interesting young people. It's young people who are non-conformists. It's young people who are about exploration, about creativity, and within that also having a safe space to function and be themselves, and also having like-minded people from all ages and walks of life. So it's a space. It's a learning space. It's an exploration space.
It's a very interesting
and
space.
And it's not confined to one thing, you know.
Yes.
So my involvement here, so in the center there are many activities. So young people come every day here. Young people who are not, they are not suited for the normal schooling system.
Okay.
You know, so themselves and their parents have decided that they should be in a space where they can explore who they are as young people.
Okay.
So in this space you'll find there's computers here, young people learning about programming, editing. There's kids who are learning about art, you know, expressing their artistic side of themselves. There are young people who enjoy the gardening and planting. So many functions, but it's all led, self-led. You know, it's spirit-led.
That's amazing.
And that's what makes the space a beautiful space. In terms of the garden, there's food to eat. There's herbs. There's succulents. There's chickens. There's bees. So now what we're doing is we're closing that ecological loop. You know, where everything has a function. Everything has a space to be of use for us, and also for us to be of use of it. Yeah, well,
that's beautiful.
Reciprocal relationship, which I hope that is the vision. This is the vision. This is my vision.
It's beautiful.
Of how we, I think, can all live, because you see, we also need to also look at farming differently. Especially us who are entering the farming space, because if we're gonna do farming in the same way that the people who we are trying to take over have been doing it, it won't work. It won't work because there's a limited amount of land, and they are in the minority. Okay. So they were able to take vast portions of land and run their farms in a particular way. Now we are many wanting to be in the space. How can we as many own the same tracts of land when there's a limited amount of land? You understand? Yeah. So let's think about this thing differently. Let's move away from monoculture. So monoculture means we only grow maize for 200 hectares. If we are many, if there are 200 of us, let us all take a hectare each, because 200 of us can't take 200 hectares.
Yes.
You get what I mean? So we really need to then think of, if that's the case, how can we make our spaces functional? That we're not growing monoculture, but we're doing multicultural cropping. You know, looking at ecological of things. If this was looked at this as an enterprise, this space.
Yes.
We've got chickens, we can sell eggs. We've got bees, we can do honey. We've got herbs, we can sell herbs. We've got mroho, we can sell spinach. So these different components are helping us to be sustainable.
Yes.
Whereas the traditional farming says you grow maize and you send your maize to a mill and you harvest and you get your money. That won't work for us. We need to quickly align ourselves to ecological way of farming, which is actually an indigenous way of farming. Our grandparents and our great-grandparents never had one bus and workers. You never heard of that. We have our homestead and we are self-sustainable, and if we have extra sheep, if we have extra milk, we have extra eggs, we go and sell it, and that's it.
So in simple terms, we just need to go back.
Always about going back, because when we go back we get to the real thing, you know.
Unlearn,
get to
relearn.
our true selves.
Yes.
You know, our spirit-led selves.
That's powerful.
We don't talk about. We are not beings who are. We are not humans living a spiritual experience. We are spirits living inside
a human
body.
experience.
So the quicker we realize that, a lot of our problems will actually be quite solved. Let's talk about cycling. Yeah. No, cycling is part of that outdoor adventure, you know, the exploration of spaces. Whether you're in the city, you have a different vibe when you're riding the city and you've got cars, taxis, people, you know, be more aware of the road. So it has a function when you go out and you do long distance riding to other countries, cross border. It's another experience.
So you've done that with cycling?
Yeah, cross border, it was the best experience. Yeah, in the past, I would say in my past 3 years of life, that was still my number one, in terms of experience.
At some point you didn't ask yourself, what am I doing to myself, when you were halfway of nowhere?
I think it helps when you're riding with people, you know.
Okay.
If you're with yourself, you know, to that your demons, to fight with your demons when you're alone on the road is another thing.
Yeah.
I still want to experience it. There's a guy who went to Swaziland by himself.
You?
And he was camping outside, you know. So if he was facing his demons, so when you're with people, you see you can bounce off each other's energies. You can, ultimately you need to ride. You don't want to be left behind, you know. You must push. But you're still with people and everyone has their pace. Sometimes you find someone who you can ride with and pair with. So it's too interesting, too nice. The pain is there, you must accept it.
Which one do you enjoy more? Long distance cycling or just a social ride?
You see, okay, social rides, bicycle for me, it was mainly a function. I need to go from A to B.
Okay.
Right, so the social aspects is like third on my list. So I ride a bike to go from A to B and I love it. I enjoy it. Best feeling. Number 2 is long distance. Go far, you ride, man, you go whole day, 100 Ks a day, 150 Ks a day until you get to your destination. Number 3 is social. Just, you know, to be with people, hang about.
Just to connect.
Yeah, because social riders are okay, but you know.
Careful now.
People
now.
Put their bikes on their car and they come and chill and ride in a circle and they put the bike back on a car and it's okay. I don't mind, but it's like it's social, okay. But you know, for me, a bike is a function. It's a utility.
Fine, okay.
No,
I asked this question, but okay.
I've got nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying, for me, social is number 3 on the list.
Ouch. Okay. I think I want to end it here. People stubborn.
No. You asked me, I was honest.
I asked.
You asked. Yeah.
So if you were not doing what you're doing now, what would you be doing?
Wow. Yeah, I love music. I'm a big music person. So I would either be playing music, DJing.
What kind of music?
I'm a big, how can I call it? Creative improvised music. Some people call it jazz. Some people call it avant-garde. Some people call it.
So you're one of those deep people.
Not really. I think you know. It's nice to explore. You know.
Yes.
I'm more of an explorer. I don't think I'm like that deep. I just like to explore. You know, sounds. You know, music is so powerful because it can take you to so many different spaces, but you can be sitting. You know. You can listen to a type of music and take you somewhere way extreme, some another world, you know.
Moving without traveling.
Yeah, the vibration and the whole thing. So if you lock yourself into a specific genre or playing on the radio, you're not allowing yourself to expand because the sound is so vast.
I
so
hear
big.
you.
So yeah, definitely I would say I'd be playing music. I also would like to have been this what you call travel blogger. You travel and
Don't you
get
all?
money, and then you say I'm in this place and you chow the food. Yeah.
They make it look so easy.
Yeah.
Apparently it's not.
Yeah. So outdoors. Yeah, definitely more outdoors. Yeah.
So with all this hard working that you do, the farming and everything, do you have a social life?
My social life is, look, for me it's about levity, life is about, levity is attached to, you could say it's like lifestyle, so my work is just part of me.
Okay.
It's another function of me. It's not like,
it's not separate
I
from
don't,
you.
it's like switch off or something. I switch off when I sleep, but when I'm waking up, like today, I give you an example for today. Today, when we finish the interview, I'm going to go and work the bees, right? But I've just been here the whole day, and I was conversating with my people who were sharing seeds.
Okay.
One of the guys came through, I had seeds, I gave him seeds. We did a bit of in the garden. It's just lifestyle, it's all one thing. It's like, but obviously you do get to a point where you gotta be serious because you're running a business. You need to take care of your accounts, your books,
Okay.
admin,
Yes.
and all those things. So it's not just all just airy-fairy, but it's important for me
Fairy.
to make it. It must be enjoyable. It must be your part of your breathing.
I like that. So for our last question, if you had a superpower, what would it be?
Fly.
Why?
Yeah. No, because flying you can go anywhere. You can see so much. You're not limited. You know what I mean? Yeah, just fly. See
Okay.
the world.
I don't know about you, kodwa mna, I was inspired to start where I am with what it is that I have. Please don't forget to visit the Nyoc Organics website. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.
I'm strong.